Skyline Park is probably one of the strangest amusement parks I've ever been to. It is located in the German state of Bavaria in a town called Bad Wörishofen. I had the chance to visit the park earlier this summer, and with my couple hours spent at the park, I was able to check out each of the park's roller coasters. Now, I will have a review video of this park and all the others in Europe released at some point in the future, so I'm not going to go super in-depth as to what makes the park so weird, other than that they have one of the most odd roller coaster collections out there. Almost every single one of them is super unique, and the park is constantly adding new attractions. Currently, the park is home to 5 roller coasters, but I rode 6 during my visit, and I'll get a little bit more into why and how later on in the list. But I'd additionally like to mention the fact that they have 3 coaster projects currently in the works. Floto Otto is going to be the park's new smallest coaster when it opens in 2023. This will be an SBF Junior coaster, which will be built on the former site of their vegan bobcart attraction. Their other coaster addition for 2023 is Berg und Talhats. This will be a larger SBF family coaster that I believe will be replacing the coaster the park just removed, which again I'll dive into later on in the episode. Lastly, I want to give a huge honorable mention to Skyline Park's 2024 edition, which doesn't currently have a name, but it's rumored to become Germany's new tallest coaster, or at least in the top 3, with a height of over 230 feet. The owner of Skyline Park mentioned in an interview that the coaster will be built from a German manufacturer, so I think it's perfectly reasonable to assume that it'll either be by Gerstlauer or Mach Rides. Whatever the case, this is going to be a monumental addition to the park, and I frankly can't quite wrap my head around it. But for now, let's focus on the park's current offerings and rank them up from worst to best. Starting this list at number 6 is Kids Spin. This is an SBF spinning coaster similar to installations at various other parks. However, this one is a 3-loop model instead of the more common 2-loop model. So in that regard, I wanted to make this one somewhat of a priority since I knew it was kind of a rare take on an ultra-common coaster model. As for the ride itself, SBF spinners are sort of garbage and all enthusiasts know that. I mean, it's cool that the little ones will be able to enjoy a coaster that spins a little, but it's just a really uncomfortable ride. If they could find a way to make these SBF spinners smooth, yeah, they would still be simple rides, but I think the concept could work really well. Number 5 is Skyrider. This might be one of the weirdest roller coasters I've ever been on. Basically, there's this manufacturer called Caripro, and they've made like 10 coasters throughout their entire existence. They are these super strange, suspended, inverted spinning coaster things. Each one has its own specific classification, and I guess this one is called a gyro flyer, and for the record, it is the only gyro flyer model in the world. Skyrider begins with an elevator lift hill on a suspended coaster. I've never seen anything like that before. I'm also not sure what the point was because I had plenty of room to put in a lift hill. Skyline Park has an absolutely ridiculous amount of room to work with. After that, the ride goes through a bunch of tame helixes and turns that don't really do anything, and it's not like they spin you a lot either. Now, if there is a bright side to the ride experience, it is very, very smooth outside of the abrupt braking, so that I appreciate. But yeah, this is just a super unconventional ride that I couldn't decide if I liked or don't like. Up next at number 4 is Nostalgisch Octoban. This translates to nostalgic roller coaster from German to English. Or should I say translated, because unfortunately this ride has been removed from the park since my visit. Which, despite its relatively low placement on this list, it is a big shame, especially since I had to find out while I was in the process of writing the script. The classic coaster was a Schwarzkopf Wildcat, which is a super rare coaster model that really peaked in popularity in the 70s and 80s. This one was one of the absolute earliest ones, constructed all the way back in 1967 for the German fair circuit. In other words, the ride has spent most of its life traveling from fair to fair until it found permanent residency at Skyline Park in 1999. As of late 2022, the nostalgic roller coaster has been sold to another German showman who will be touring the ride from 2023 onwards. Now, it's good to know that the coaster hasn't met its demise because the Schwarzkopf Wildcats are already few and far between. However, in a park that already has limited options in terms of roller coasters, it does suck to see them lose such a cool ride. That said, I'm sure the loss will be much less significant when the park finishes adding in all these new coasters they have planned. The ride was smooth and fun, and I'm sad to see it go. Number 3 is SkySpin. This Mauer spinning coaster might be the least uncommon coaster at this park. It's the same layout that can be found at parks like Hershey Park, Waldemir, Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, Lagoon, you get the point. But of all the commonly cloned models they chose from, they did go with a bit of a funky one. Depending on the weight distribution of your train, you can spin quite a lot on these things. But even if you're not spinning, it's a fun family coaster layout. SkySpin opened in 2013 and it is still running pretty smooth. I think it's a great ride for this park, even if it's a little less weird than the rest of the coaster collection. Number 2 on my list is the SkyDragster. I had a hard time figuring out where to rank SkyDragster, but I ultimately went with the number 2 spot solely because of how weird it is. This is the only Mauer spike coaster I've ridden, which is a model prone to tons of downtime. I had been told that if I see this thing running, I should immediately get on it. So, as soon as I entered the park, I went straight for this thing and was pleased to see it running. But luck wasn't entirely on my side since the ride had a 50 to 60 minute wait due to its capacity. And considering the fact that we had just 3 hours to spend at this park, it was a big risk squeezing in a ride on this thing. I'm convinced that if we hadn't ridden SkyDragster first thing when we got to the park, we wouldn't have ridden it at all. Now, would we be missing out is the question. Ultimately, that's up for you to decide, as this is one of those rare roller coasters where you control your speed. The ride has a motorbike seating setup, and whoever is riding in the front of the motorbike has the ability to hold a boost button. I didn't have the highest hopes watching all the other trains crawl through the layout, but that was before I knew you could control your speed. So we were treated to a decent little ride that actually throws in some alright airtime moments. Now by nature, the ride will slow you down at points where it's required, but when you do go fast, it's a fun time. By far the highlight of this ride experience is the launch at the beginning, which takes off at the same rate of acceleration regardless of how fast you want to experience the rest. This is a surprisingly punchy launch that sort of carried the rest of the layout. SkyDragster is a very weird ride, but I'm glad I was able to do it. Taking the top spot by a landslide is SkyWheel. Riding one of these Mauer Skyloop coasters has always been so high on my bucket list. We only have one of them over here in America, and it's all the way out in Arkansas, so it was clear that this was going to be my best bet at riding one anytime soon. SkyWheel doesn't just feature the typical Skyloop layout, but the way the park runs it, they actually send the train around 2 times. So basically, once you've gone through the elements and have rocked back and forth through the station, the vertical lift hill will catch you. From this point on other Mauer Skyloops, you'd be slowly taken down into the station, but on SkyWheel, you climb up the lift another time and repeat the ride layout again. This was a huge surprise since it eliminated the main problem I would have had with the ride, and that's the super short length. As for the elements themselves, they all feel super strange. Some heavy positive g-forces, some crazy hang time, and of course, those vertical lift hills are super freaky. If I had to compare SkyWheel to another coaster I've ridden, I'd probably say it's most similar to Aftershock at Silverwood. But even then, there are some substantial differences between the two. If you ever have the chance to get on one of these super rare Skyloop coasters, I'd highly recommend. I feared that it could feel a lot like a one-trick pony, but honestly, I loved it. So that's going to put an end to my ranking video from Skyline Park in Germany. If any of you guys have been here, please let me know how you'd rank the roller coasters, and also who you think the manufacturer will be for this huge 230-foot coaster coming in 2024. Also, if someone could please let me know how this park gets the funds to build stuff like that, I'd appreciate that as well. If you enjoyed my list, definitely like this video and subscribe, as that really helps out the channel. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye guys.